Hey, what's up guys? Here at Fieldcraft HQ, and typically we do vehicle walkarounds on very expensive rigs. And the Jeep versus Jeep, you guys saw Mike Hernandez's $1.7 million Jeep. It didn't cost that much. It was like 1.5, something like that. More migrating into a budget build, like what can you afford? Because a lot of those vehicles, it must be nice. It is nice, but what about people who are on a budget? And so that's why I brought out my truck, a 2001 Dodge 3500 5.9 Cummins, which is one of my favorite trucks I've ever owned. So let's take a gander and then talk about why this type of setup is good for living your prep life, but also all the adventures. I think all the adventures are important to note. Let's talk about mods. What would you do to a 3500? Well, one, a 3500 has the ability to pull 20,000 plus pounds, and you need to mod it up and to have it more capable. Four-wheel drive, 3500, 5.9, very reliable Cummins engine. It's got it all. The drivetrain's solid. This has 250,000 plus miles. It's a solid truck. All right, guys, so the first thing I did is I added this Diamondback ATVR. Now, what's cool is this is load bearing because I'm up here, but it also allows you to carry a lot of weight, including a UTV, side-by-side, whatever you're into. I took Mike Pfeiffer from Last Line of Defense's recommendation, and I'm gonna get a system that allows us to do a rooftop tent. I'll probably put an FSR tent on top of this that allows my whole family to camp up here when I'm not using it to carry side-by-sides or equipment. It has the bars for adapting the ramps, obviously, and then you can stow them inside. Now, the cool thing about Diamondback is Diamondback allows you to lock your stuff in a truck bed. It's really frustrating to have a truck bed where you can't keep anything in it because if you do, it'll be stolen. And then if you run a camper shell, which I've run plenty of camper shells. In fact, the first truck I took to Canada on this bug out idea from Phoenix to the Canadian border was with a soft shell camper. They're easy to break into. I know because it was broken into. And when you have this where you're able to lock it and secure it, it's awesome. But also if you're looking at covers and truck beds, you can't really load bear them. So with the tent, with the UTVs, all that stuff, I could use this. And I also, as you could see from the beginning of this, have access to it, which is cool. So definitely recommend getting one of these to just add more utility to your setup. All right, let me get off this. Let me get my fat ass off this and let's migrate into more of the build. All right, so when I bought this truck, it had all of these components on it. This fancy bumper made of chrome has got to go, but it works for right now. If you have a pickup truck, you can get really cheap bumpers. You don't have to get fancy, but I always recommend getting a loop or a guard on the front to protect your radiator, especially in places like Utah, Montana, Wyoming, North Carolina. Anywhere where there's deer, elk, or big game, you need to protect the front end of your vehicle. This vehicle did not come with a lift, and I don't intend to put a lift because I like the low center of gravity. I like towing with the capability, but I also like that this is off-road capable of four-wheel drive. But I did put a leveling kit on this. I put a Carly suspension link leveling kit. I think I picked it off eBay, really cheap and inexpensive. It just creates a better ride quality on the front end of this rig, especially when most of the weight is because of this 5.9 Cummins that's sitting inside of it. All right, also, new headlights and taillights. I paid a couple $100 off eBay for these headlights and taillights that have this big gap, which doesn't make sense to me, but they're eBay lights. Now, that's a huge improvement just because of how it's built over the stock halogen lights. Just the stock halogen lights, especially over time, being 23 years old as a truck, you're not going to be able to see as clear. Again, nothing highly invested in this besides this fancy paint job right here. Like, here, oh man, it's such a good paint job. All right, so right here I have an Edge tuner, which is one of the things that you will have to invest in, and they're not cheap. The reason I want you to tune these vehicles is because they're really restricted from the factory, especially if you have a newer model diesel pickup truck. Like I have an F350 behind us, and that F350 has DEF and all the restrictions, and it can't breathe. I'm so looking forward to the day that my warranty expires so I can actually put an EGR, delete, a straight pipe, and all the things. Check local listings and where you're from. In Wasatch County here, we don't have emissions, which is a good thing for me being able to get the most out of this engine. I also think there's a lot of proof that those restrictions tax and burden the engines, depending on the year, make, and model, obviously, but it's better to allow them to breathe. It's better to allow them to open up. And so this allows 5 different settings from economic all the way to send it or full send. And I also can monitor all the things that are in a pickup truck. To me, a pickup truck like a 5.9 or 6.7 Cummins diesel, a good one, a 12 valve, 24 valve, is like flying an old airplane. It's like a Cessna. You want to be able to monitor things because you don't want to destroy it, because you're basically driving a tractor. And I like that. That's why this truck has 250,000 miles, and it could probably do another 250,000 miles like it was nothing. All right, guys, so that's it. What does the feature look like for this build? Well, not too much more, because I think it's a good platform, and it's set up from the factory as being a good, reliable truck. Having off-road capability, clearance from the ground, having diesel, and not having all the emissions is awesome. And this truck is going to last a long, long time. Part of this is me adapting it so I could spend more time with the family. So I think the next steps are getting the mounts and also the rooftop tent. In this case, it's likely going to be an FSR that basically pops like this, not clamshell, to fit all of my children inside the same tent. The next thing is likely painting this truck as well, because I do want to put a good paint job on this truck. It's been 23 years. It's been worn down. I want to get rid of this chrome. I'm not going to pull dents out of this truck. I like the fact that it has a little bit of character in it. Who doesn't like dents? But I do want to make sure that I give it a nice coat of paint. So I'll take it to the local paint shop, pay a couple $100, or just do it myself. That's to protect the metal long term. A lot of these things, like all the dents, there's rust in the bottom of the bumper. Bumper sets is probably going to be the next thing as well. On this particular truck, I do want to put steel bumpers because I want to be able to protect the cab, my family, when we're going on trips. I also want to put a winch in the rear of the vehicle and potentially in the front of the vehicle. Most likely that's not for me because I'm not going to put myself in a position to get stuck, but I could see this vehicle being a support vehicle for Fieldcraft, as well as a vehicle that's going to recover a lot of the shenanigans that go on behind the scenes. Last but not least, wheels. I'm not a fan of chrome. I never have been. This is a dually setup, and dualies tend to be more expensive because you have to get more tread, but these BF Good wrenches have plenty of life in them. I'm not interested in putting 37s or even 35s on this. What I am interested in is getting a new set of wheels because I just want a more robust wheel as to not compromise the tire and wheel relationship. And I think bead locks are a little unnecessary, but I wouldn't mind having a bezel around here to protect from all the rocks and the debris that's bound to get in here because of this open design. This is just a piece of plastic that's chromed around the steel. I'm probably going to pull that off and just have a steel wheel until I decide to get into a better wheel for off-road use. Outside of that, man, I think that's it. There's some interior components that could be worked on. I got to get a mobility bag from Fieldcraft loaded up in here. But basically, that's it. Guys, if you have any feedback, if you own a diesel pickup truck and you got recommendations, let us know in the comments. Also, expect to see this vehicle and more content. And if you're in the market for a 5.9 diesel, I picked this truck up for 10 grand off Facebook Marketplace. Again, just showing you that it can be done and you can live a capable, outdoor, recreational, and prepared life on a budget. For all my people out there who think it can't be done. I appreciate you guys. Until next time, peace out.